Hello everyone, Just Podcast TV is here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified on new contents.
Episode 341. Trouble Came Again. Come on, let's hear this sound wave. Wild wolves are not wild wolves. Look at the appearance. It's not very grand. It's a first-rate luxury car. It's really worth it if you buy this car. It's simply worth it. I love it to death. Those who bought the car were naturally pleased with themselves. Those who did not manage to buy the car could only feel dejected. Everyone went online to complain. They criticized the QZ group for not learning that their car would be so popular and not have enough supply to fill the demand. However, QZ also felt wronged. There was a sea of people in front of the shops. There was no one in the other shops. Their production line had been working day and night, and the third shift had fallen. They would never stop working, and their production output was also very high. However, no matter how high the output was, we would not be able to meet the needs of the hungry wolves all over the country, especially those who mentioned the car owners. They were all showing off all kinds of compliments on the internet. There was even a newbie who was making live broadcasts. Because he mentioned the car he had just bought, he took a video and uploaded it. Then, he instantly exploded. The amount of attention he received increased exponentially. It was as if he had eaten a flare and could not stop at all. The envious words left behind by the netizens were endless, and they expressed their painful feelings for queuing up for half the morning's work. In short, Wind Chaser had really exploded in popularity. It's on fire! Our car is completely on fire now! When they were having dinner outside, Luna said to Zach, I have sent someone to count. By 5 p.m., all the shops in QZ have sold 2 cars and other brands in the country. Other than that, all the brands have 0 sales. The 2,000 cars that were put into the market earlier were cleared out in day 1. No, that's not right. It was cleared out in half an hour, and there were no more follow-ups. The factory is still working overtime. The factory below is also working hard. The entire production chain is very busy. The idlest person is probably the salesperson in the store. As soon as he says he has a car, he will be out in less than 5 minutes. It's really popular. Our brand is really popular. Many of our old classmates and friends even called me to ask to save a car for them. How can I keep a car? The entire company is not allowed to keep a car without permission. I have even become a sinner. Luna was very distressed, but this kind of distress was also a kind of happiness distress. It was really hard for her to imagine that one day her own car would actually be so arrogant to such an extent. It was too overbearing. Regarding Luna's happiness and distress, Zach only smiled and did not mind. It was only natural that the Wind Chaser would be popular. It was unreasonable if it was not. The quality would be the best. The price would be 0 profit. The feelings would be emotional. The quality would be good, and the price would be good. Such a car with such a good heart and conscience. There was no justice if it was not popular. After dinner, Zach drove Luna home in the car. I will leave for a few days and go to Dusty's place. I will leave this place to you. I have something to discuss with Carson. Zach greeted Luna as he said goodnight. The next day, Zach went to Dusty's place with Donnie, as well as the gangster and the man who had safely escorted Xena back. The current Dusty was also very impressive. There were armed police standing guard around the research and development base. Let's put it this way. Zach wanted to see Dusty, so he called Dusty first. Dusty sent someone to pick him up. Otherwise, Zach wouldn't be able to enter the research and development base. Zach and Dusty sat down and found an empty spot to smoke. They chatted as they smoked. Zach told Dusty about the custom-made high-speed racing car that he had promised Sander earlier. After all, he had promised me something. Dusty waved his hand. No problem. This is also the direction of our company's next step. With a stable high altitude, we naturally have to build a sports car. Perfect. Bring out that custom-made car you ordered. When the time comes, let Sander drive it to the black market. It can be considered as advertising for us. Dusty had thought it through quite thoroughly. This was pretty good. It saved Zach from saying anything else. After all, Dusty was no longer his person, and the contract he signed was invalid. Although Dusty was still the chief engineer of the hydrogen power system in name, in fact, he only focused on the general direction. As for the specific execution, it was his team. Episode 342. Treat the Symptoms. After discussing with Dusty, Zach walked around the research base again and prepared to go to Carson's place to take a look. He hadn't been there since the establishment of the Dream Group collaboration. Now he finally had some time. He wanted to visit his new company. However, he was still halfway there when Luna called him. Zach, something happened. They had already started selling cars, and the hydrogen power system had already been shared. How could something have happened? Something had really happened. After returning to the QZ group, Zach met Shamir again in the meeting room. This white-haired old man actually brought people to his door again. But this time, when he saw Zach, he no longer went mad. Instead, he was trembling with fear. It seemed like the twisting of his neck incident had given him a very deep impression. Shamir stretched out both of his hands with a flattering smile on his face. He wanted to shake Zach's hand, but Zach ignored him. Walking behind Shamir, Zach placed one hand on Shamir's head and supported his chin with the other. Tell me, do you want to twist to the left or to the right this time? I will give you enough respect. This was not respect. This was asking for a human life. Shamir was frightened. He quickly said in a trembling voice, Mr. Marquez, I don't blame you for this. I only take orders from others. Oh, then tell me, whose life did you take? What do you want to do? Zach threatened Shamir in front of everyone, but Shamir and the others didn't dare to make a sound. They had seen how fierce Zach was last time, especially the death of the 6 security guards. It made them realize that if they had offended Zach, they would also face the same tragic end. Furthermore, the current Shamir seemed to have already known Zach's true identity. However, under such circumstances, he still dared to come and provoke Zach. The meaning behind that was very clear. Someone was stabbing him in the back again. Under Zach's threat, Shamir said, Many car companies have to withdraw their investments and leave. They have to compensate and the production will be suspended, so the post-sales maintenance shops have to be closed too. Shamir's words were very tactful, but Zach still understood what he meant. Why did so many car companies leave? Why? Because our Wind Chaser sells too well? We can't sell anything else. We can't sell it? We will leave the market for you? However, once we withdraw our funds, our store will also be closed. And once the store is closed, the hydraulic service in their store will be terminated. No matter how good the pinwheel sales are, even if there was no place to add hydrogen, it would only be a lump of scrap metal. The timing was also pretty good. The Wind Chaser had just gone public and was just starting to sell. Then he gave a hammer a 7-inch nail. It couldn't be removed. It had already been sold. It was still selling. The place where the hydrogen was refueled was another big problem. The more the hydrogen was sold, the more serious the problem would be. This move was quite ruthless. So Zach wanted to know who was playing him behind his back. When he asked Shamir this question, Shamir replied, I am not qualified to know. Shamir was not qualified to know. What he told Zach later was only a small family. The matter was very clear. The big shots would pass the message to the small family, and the small family would give Shamir an order. At the most basic level, Shamir would bring people to look for the QZ group and hammer them. Zack patted Shamir's shoulders. Do you think your head is useful? Shamir did not understand what Zack meant, but the head was a useful thing, so he nodded. It is useful. Zack smiled and said, It's good that it's useful. If it's useful, then give me a month's time to think of a way. Shamir was embarrassed. If you refuse, then it means that your brain is useless. Since it's useless, then I will help you remove it. After threatening the pale Shamir, Zack continued, That's it. You can withdraw the brand. You have to think of a way to stay in the store for at least a month. I don't care what your name is. If you can't do it, then go to hell. Shamir felt extremely awkward, but since Zack had already given the order, he could only obey. Everyone present was dumbfounded. They had no idea why Zack would threaten Shamir, and why Shamir would listen to him. If it was just a quick death, then it obviously wouldn't make sense. However, they didn't know the specific details. In short, they were very arrogant when they came. They were determined to work together to kill this revolutionary brand of car. But when they left, they were in despair. They felt that they had lost face. So many car brands had come. However, they were suppressed by one person for a month. Moreover, they could not sell their cars for a month. They could only drive their own shops. It was very awkward. It felt like they had suffered a double loss. It was such a mess. It was embarrassing. After Shamir left, Zack sat down on a stool. Mac left. According to Luna's analysis, he should have gone to call the higher-ups. Zack waved his hand. Let him do it. I thrive in these situations. I don't want you to get involved. What he said was very big. So big that it could be said. Zack alone was better than the entire QZ group. If it was when she first met Zack, Luna would definitely think that he was really crazy. But now she felt that this bastard was quite arrogant. But he had the capital to be arrogant. The things that she had experienced before had made Luna realize that Zack's family was really awesome. Episode 343. Open Market. Zack left. After leaving the conference room, he went straight to the airport and booked the latest flight. Although Shamir had promised to give him a month's time, Zack knew very well that he would not be able to delay it for a month. If Zack could take Shamir's head, those who didn't show up would also be able to do the same. Furthermore, Zack had a feeling that the same way of doing things and the same precision of action should be done by the Mann family. As for whether it was true or not, there was no evidence at the moment. Furthermore, Shamir really wasn't on the same level as the Mann family. However, these weren't the most important things. The most important thing right now was that Zack couldn't let the Wind Chaser die prematurely at the moment of vigorous growth. This kind of setback brought about a huge blow. It was even worse than the Wind Chaser brand that had never appeared before. If it didn't appear, it meant that there was still a chance. However, it came out prematurely. This would cause many people to lose confidence, and it would even cause the domestic car industry to lose confidence. This kind of thing was something Zack would never allow. This was not a loss of face for a single person. It was a loss of face for the entire nation. Therefore, he had to solve these problems as soon as possible. What he needed now was a quick and effective solution. Even if he could cure the symptoms and not the root cause, he had to crack this difficult situation first. In his opinion, he had to expand his market into other countries, specifically in Canada. There was no other way. The sales of cars in Canada was one of the best. So as long as he pried open Canada and let them stay, the store would continue to exist. Zack did not want their cars. What he needed was their shop. With a large number of cars, the market could be stabilized to a certain extent. It was enough to relieve the pressure on Wind Chaser's brand of hydrogen energy cars to a large extent. According to Zach's understanding, the one controlling these brands was the Angler family of Canada. When he returned to the island to prepare for the coming-of-age ceremony, Mark Angler, who chased after Angela and was harshly reprimanded, was a member of the Angler family. Although the Angler family didn't seem like a thing in front of the Marquez family, it was still a huge power in Canada. Therefore, Zach's purpose of coming here was to find Mark Angler and talk to him about the suspension of the production. The plane landed at 2 a.m. at the international airport. As soon as they left the departure hall, Zach saw Taylor. Taylor was the person in charge of the Marquez family assets in Canada. When he found out that Zach was here, he immediately rushed over. "Mr. Marquez, you have worked hard all the way here." Taylor was in his 40s. His hands were pressed against the seams of his pants in front of Zach, and he bowed 90 degrees. However, he did not feel awkward. He even felt that there was nothing wrong with it. He put himself in a very proper position. As a servant of the Marquez family, he should have the attitude that a servant of the Marquez family should have. Zach responded, then brought Donnie into the carriage. This time he only brought Donnie along. He left the gangster and the runaway man behind to take care of Luna. After boarding the black Toyota Alpha, the two cars in front opened up a path, and the two cars in the back closed in. Needless to say, the four cars were all well-trained bodyguards to ensure Zach's safety. To Taylor, Zach's arrival was a chance for him to improve, but it was also very likely that he would end up in a dead end. After doing his job well and displaying his perfect execution and ability to do things, he would have a chance to improve further. Along the way, Zach didn't say anything, and Taylor didn't dare to ask Zach about his purpose in coming here. When they were almost at the Capitol's International Hotel, Zach said to Taylor, "You don't have to stay by my side all the time. I will contact you if there is anything." Taylor nodded solemnly with a serious expression. "Yes, Mr. Marquez." Zach said again, "Also, help me contact Mark Angler and ask him to come see me at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." Taylor hesitated a little. "According to what I know, Mark Angler doesn't seem to be in the country." Zach nodded. "Then tell him that if I can't see him before 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, he will just die outside." After saying that, Zach entered the Jasmine International Hotel under the guidance of a courteous waitress. Looking at Zach's departing figure, Taylor's heart was filled with regret. He felt that he really spoke too much. He actually said that Mark was overseas. Even if Mark Angler was on Mars, that was Mark Angler's business. It had nothing to do with him. As long as Mark Angler did not appear, he would be responsible for protecting his master's honor. Why should he consider whether someone was there or not? "Taylor, you really are an idiot!" He cursed himself in his heart. Taylor quickly chased after him, not daring to say anything. If Zach did not give any instructions before entering the guest room, he would leave. If he had any instructions, it was better than not being by his side, even if he wanted to. Regardless of these details, he had considered them thoroughly, and Zach had indeed used these details. Looking at Donnie, who was looking at all the women in Canada, Zach said to him, "You want to relax?" Donnie scratched his head and said, "I wouldn't dare. I just want to take a look. The most important thing is to protect the boss." Zach smiled and said, "No need. Taylor will protect me well in Canada. You can be rest assured of that." Taylor nodded immediately after hearing this. "Yes, Mr. Marquez." Then he turned to Donnie and said, "Donnie, Mr. Marquez will be surprised by this. Also, I have arranged a special place for you to relax. If you need anything, you can call me anytime." Donnie was quite excited. He had benefited from following the boss. A little bodyguard for you. This is true.